Year after year, more of us are quietly searching for the same thing online. Why do I care what everyone thinks? How to stop caring what others think of me? Why am I so anxious all the time? And the search volume for these queries has tripled in the decade. And I wanted to understand why. So I spent the last few months diving into psychological research, behavioral science, and one particularly brutal philosophy book that argues that we are all suffering from the same disease, that we give too many fucks about the wrong thing. Let me show you what I found because the answer isn't what you would expect, and the solution it's probably going to make you feel uncomfortable. This video is structured in 7 chapters, so let's start with the most counterintuitive one. Here is something strange happening in the modern psychology. For decades, we've been told that positive thinking is the answer. Visualize success, affirm yourself daily, believe that you are special, amazing, and destined for greatness. The self help industry is worth over 10 billion annually selling the exact same message. But here's what the research actually shows. People who constantly pursue positive experiences receive higher level of anxiety, emotional instability, and depression. Let me explain why. Think of your brain as a city's traffic system. Every thought, every emotion, every decision releases neurotransmitters. Let's call them cars on the road. Now, when you desperately chase positive feelings, you are essentially creating a traffic jam of expectations. I should be happy right now. Why am I not happy yet? What's wrong with me that I'm not happy? Each of these thoughts releases stress hormone. Now you got cortisol flooding your system because you are not happy yet, which makes you less happy and which makes you more stressed about not being happy. Psychologists call this the feedback loop from hell. But here is where it gets interesting. There is a principle in philosophy called the backwards law. The idea of backwards law is simple. The more you pursue something, the more you reinforce the fact that you lack it in the first place. The more you desperately want to be rich, the more you feel poor, regardless of your actual bank account. The more you desperately want to be attractive, the more uglier you feel, regardless of what you actually look like. The more you chase happiness, the more it runs away from you. Because the desire for a positive experience is itself a negative experience. And this isn't just philosophy, behavioral scientist has documented this for decades. And when you make feeling good your primary goal, you actually make yourself feel worse because you are essentially telling yourself that my current situation isn't good enough. I need to be somewhere else to be okay. And that message repeated thousands of times per day destroys your baseline contentment. So, what's the alternative? Let's keep that question in mind and as we move to the next chapter. I want you to try something right now. Think about your biggest problem, the thing that's been bothering you most lately. Got it. Now, here's the question. What if that problem never goes away? What if instead of solving it and moving on to a problem free life, you just get a different problem? Because that's actually how life works. Psychologists have been studying life satisfaction for decades, and here is what they have found. Solving problems doesn't lead to a life without problems. It leads to a different, hopefully better problems. For example, you solve your money problem by getting a better job. Great, now your problems are office politics, longer commute, higher expectations, work-life balance. You solve your loneliness by getting into a relationship. Excellent, now your problems are communication, compromise, navigating another person's emotional needs, planning a future together. This is what researchers called hedonic treadmill. You adapt to every improvement in your life, and your baseline returns to roughly where it started. Happiness isn't the absence of problem. Happiness is the process of solving a problem you find meaningful. Think about it. When was the last time you felt genuinely satisfied? Probably after accomplishing something difficult, after pushing through resistance, after solving a problem that mattered to you, not after scrolling through social media, not after achieving some milestone you thought would change everything. And neuroscience backs this up. Your brain's reward system doesn't light up from passive pleasure. It lights up from progress towards a meaningful goal. So the question isn't how do I eliminate all my problems? The question is what problems do I want to have? What are you willing to struggle for? What kind of suffering is meaningful to you? because that's what determines the quality of your life, not what you want to enjoy, but what you are willing to endure. And most people never ask this question, and that's why they stay stuck. Let me show you something interesting about modern psychology. In the 1960s, researchers started promoting something called the self esteem movement. The idea was simple. If we make people feel good about themselves, they will perform better and cause fewer problems. So schools start giving participation trophies, parents start praising kids, and everyone got told that they were special and unique and destined for greatness. 50 years later, we have the data, and here's what it shows. Self esteem scores have gone up, way up, but so has depression rates, anxiety rates, narcissism scores, feeling of inadequacy. But how is that possible? Because we confused two completely different things. True self esteem comes from acknowledging your flaws and working to improve them. It's measured by how you handle your negative experience. False self-esteem comes from avoiding your flaws and inflating your positive experience. It's measured by how good you can make yourself in the moment. One builds resilience, the other builds entitlement. And entitlement shows up in two forms. Form 1, I'm amazing and everyone else is wrong, so I deserve special treatment. I'm I'm terrible and everyone else is amazing, so I deserve special treatment. Different wrapping, same core belief. My problems are special, my pain is unique. Normal rules don't apply to me. This is where exhaustion comes from. When you believe your problems are uniquely difficult, you can't learn from others who have solved similar problems. You can't accept that maybe your approach is wrong. You can't change. Neuroscientists can actually see this in brain scans. People with entitlement shows different activation patterns when receiving feedback. Their brain treats criticism as a threat to their identity rather than useful information. But here's what's interesting. The moment someone realizes that their problems aren't special, that millions of other people have struggled with the same thing, they suddenly became solvable. Because now you can look at how others solved it. Now you can admit that you might be wrong, and now you can change your approach. Because the path to solving your problems starts with realizing that they aren't that unique. And that's actually incredibly freeing. Let me tell you about an experiment that psychologists ran in the 1980s. They put people in a room with random buttons and lights. They were told press the buttons in the right sequence and the lights will glow, and on every glowing light you will earn the point. Figure out the pattern. People got to work pressing buttons, watching for patterns, developing elaborate theories about what worked. And within 15 minutes, most people were convinced they had cracked the code. They had specific sequences, rituals. They would stand a certain way, press buttons in a precise order, or wait exact amount of time. Now here's the thing, the points were completely random. There was no pattern. The light just came on randomly every few minutes, no matter what they did. But every single person left that room convinced they had figured it out. They had created meaning where none existed. This is what your brain does constantly. It's a pattern finding machine, and when it can't find real patterns, it invents them. Now apply this to your life. What metrics are you using to measure yourself? Is it success? Is it money? Followers? Approval? Is it attractiveness? Now here's the question. Did you choose those metrics, or did your brain just find patterns in what society rewards and decides those must be what matters? Because values, what you actually care about, determines everything about your experience of life. Researchers have identified that values fall into two categories. Category 1, external, uncontrollable values, being liked by everyone, being the best, never failing, always being right, materialistic success. These create persistent anxiety because they are outside your control. You can work hard and still not achieve them. Category 2, internal, controllable values, honesty, growth, curiosity, contribution, vulnerability. These create sustainable satisfaction because they are within your control. You can live them regardless of external outcome. Brain imaging studies show something fascinating. When people pursue external values, their stress response remains elevated even if they succeed. And when people pursue internal values, their stress response calms, regardless of external outcome. So here's the practical question. What are you actually measuring yourself against? Is it based on reality? Is it something you can control? Does it make you and others better? If not, that's probably why you are exhausted. Because you are playing a game you can't win, using metrics you didn't choose, and for reasons you have never questioned. There is a critical distinction that most people miss, and it's probably the most important thing in this entire video. The difference between fault and responsibility. Fault is about the past, it's about who caused the problem. Responsibility, on the other hand, is completely different thing. Responsibility is about the present, it's about who deals with the problems. They're not the same thing. You can be 0% at fault and 100% responsible. Let me show you what this looks like in practice. Imagine you wake up tomorrow and there is a baby in your doorstep. Not your baby, not your fault why it's there, but it's 100% your responsibility to decide what to do. Call child services, take it in, knock on neighbors' doors. Whatever you choose, you choose. And you are responsible for that choice and its consequences. This applies to everything in your life. You didn't choose your childhood trauma, not your fault, but it's your responsibility to heal from it. You didn't choose to get cheated on, not your fault, but it's your responsibility to decide how you respond. Psychologists call this locus of control. People with an internal locus of control believes they are responsible for their outcomes, and people with external locus of control believe their their outcomes are determined by outside forces. The research is overwhelming. Internal locus of control predicts better mental health, stronger relationships, higher achievements, and greater life satisfaction. But here's where people get stuck. They resist taking responsibility because they think it means accepting fault. They think it means the bad thing that happened to them were somehow okay. But taking responsibility just means this is my life now. What am I going to do about it? And that single shift from why is this happening to me to what am I going to do about this changes everything. Because suddenly you are not powerless. You are not a victim. You are an agent with choices, and that's actually the most empowering realization you can have. 500 years ago, we were certain California was an island. We were certain bleeding patient cured disease. We were certain that sun revolved around the earth. We were wrong about all of it. My point here is that you are wrong about most things in your life right now. Better words would be we are wrong about most things in our life right now. Our understanding about ourselves, our prediction about the future, our interpretation about past events, our assumption about what others think. Most of it is inaccurate, and we don't know which part. The thing that blows my mind is, and I often talk about this with my students, is your memory isn't a recording, it's a reconstruction. Every time you remember something, your brain slightly alters it based on your current emotional state and beliefs. Remember that argument you had 5 years ago? Your memory of it today is different from your memory of it last year, and both are different from what actually happened. But here's what's fascinating. The more certain you are about something, the less likely you are to learn or grow. Because certainty closes your mind. It makes you defend your position rather than examine it. It turns every challenge into a threat. Researchers studying cognitive rigidity have found that people who score high in certainty also score high in anxiety because they are constantly defending their worldview against reality. The paradox is this: the more certain you try to be, the more uncertain and insecure you actually feel. But the opposite is also true. The more you embrace uncertainty, the more you admit you might be wrong, the more stable you become. Because now you are not investing your identity in being right. You are free to update your beliefs as you learn. You are free to admit mistakes without shattering your sense of self. You are free to say, I don't know without feeling inadequate. And this is what researchers called intellectual humility, and it is one of the strongest predictors of learning, growth, and mental health. So here's the practical application. Instead of asking, am I right? Ask, how might I be wrong? Instead of instead of defending your position, examine it, question it. Instead of seeking certainty, get comfortable with doubt. Because growth only happens at the edge of what you know. And you can't reach those edges if you are certain that you already know everything. There is a psychologist named Ernest Becker who spent his career studying one question: why do humans do the things they do? And his conclusion, which won him a Pulitzer Prize: everything we do is driven by our terror of death. So here is his argument. We are the only animals that can conceptualize our own death. We can imagine a future without ourselves in it. And that awareness creates a deep unconscious anxiety. So we cope by creating what he called immortality projects, ways our conceptual self can outline our physical body. Building a company, creating art, having children, making an impact, uh, becoming famous, getting rich. All of human civilization, Becker argued, is built on these immortality projects. And here is where it gets interesting for our purposes. When we are not conscious of death, we choose the wrong projects. We chase money as an end in itself. We pursue fame for its own sake. We compete for status we don't even want. But when we confront our mortality, really sit with the fact that I will die, our values shift. Researchers on mortality salience shows this consistently. When people are reminded of their death, they become less materialistic, more generous, more focused on relationship, more concerned on meaning than status. It's as if death acts like a filter. The trivial falls off. What matters becomes clear. This is why every wisdom tradition emphasizes contemplating death. Stoics kept skulls on their desks. Buddhists meditate on impermanence. Even modern psychologists use mortality reflection as a therapeutic tool. Because here's what happens when you really internalize your own death. You stop caring about trivial social hierarchies. You stop pursuing goals that don't actually align with your values. You stop giving fucks about the things that won't matter on your deathbed. And you start focusing on what will. How you treated people, whether you contributed, whether you lived according to your own values. So here are the most practical questions you can ask yourself. If you die today, what would you regret not doing? I'm not saying achieving, I'm saying doing. What conversations would you regret not having? What risks would you regret not taking? What person would you regret not becoming? Those answers are your compass. Everything else is distraction.